Hey guys, this is Zach. Today I'm going to go through and show you how to set up some toolpath for your milling operations. So here I've just made a little random model, something to go off of, just so you how to select edges and set your depths and whatnot. So I've done a couple over here already that I'll run through. But to get here, if they're not here, you right click on machine setup. And depending on what you want to do, I'm not going to hit on these in detail specifically on each one. I'm going to just kind of show you, because for the most part they're very similar when you get in them. But like what I've done for the profile is mill 2-axis, which is this one. So I'm just going to open it up. And when you get to this screen, you set your rapid plane and your feed plane. So I leave these at 100 thou. Like these are, like I said, they're already set. So one thing I'll show you when I get out of here is where to change this clearance plane. As you can see, it's grayed out, so you can't edit it in here. And it defaults to 1 inch actually. So I'll show you where that's at. But for here, you know what? I'm gonna redo this so you can actually see me selecting the geometry as well. So this is starting from scratch right here. And let's say I want to cut this boss right here. So I just ran around the edge and selected each one. I'll hit next, and down here it will show you what I selected. So from here, let's keep them all at 100 thou. So on this, pick top. Let's say this is the top. Pick bottom. As you can see, it changed the number. So if you're working, you can just type in numbers if you just have a sketch up there. But if you're working off of a model, you can do what I just did. But again, if you know your number, you can just type it in. If you know the top is 0 and you're going to inch deep, just type it in, and that's good enough. Move forward. On here, depends. Like I'll do a profile for this particular feature, but you can do pocketing, and it'll pop up kind of a generic setup that they have. Facing, engraving. And this area over here, they usually show a picture, which is pretty helpful. It's to help you understand, different parts and what they're talking about. Let's say we'll do profile. And on this, you can add as many of these over here as you want. There's no reason to in this case, but you can add stuff over here and move it around for the order that you want it to be performed in. Let's keep this simple. We'll do a profile. Because like I said, working through it, for the most part, they're very similar. The overall of what you're going to see. This, I've never really done much in here. I've never found a real use for it, so I'm not going to hit on that too much right now. This page, work all set. 1 is G54. So 2 is 55, 3 is 56, and so on. So that's what that is. Output rotary angle. There's probably no use at all if you don't have like a 4th axis. I know some machines that have a 4th want you to check this, and it should just post out, A0 or whatever axis you have, A or C, whatever it may be. I usually leave it unchecked. So tool. This is probably where you have the most adjustments to be made. So for here, this is put in a 1/2 inch tool, so you can simply change that to whatever size you want. You come into tool crib here. So say if you want to end mill rough, you only see that one right there now, but you can add from library. And I'll make another video in the future covering more about this library, but you can see all of this is already there, and this just came on the software. I didn't make this library. So if you see something in here you like, you can select it as well. And then it'll put it right here, so just hit OK, and it'll throw that in here. Now, if you want to make any adjustments, you can change whatever. So this is 2.5 inch flute length, reflute. So you can type in what you want. And that's just as long as this box is unchecked, you'll have access to these. Now, tool number, you can uncheck the use automatic tool numbering, and you can put it to this tool. So tool 4 or whatever tool numbers you need. So all you have to do is uncheck that box. Okay. For some reason, if you are using one tool with multiple offsets, you can check override offsets and change it. So say if you wanted tool 4 but offset 14, that's how you would do that. Feeds and speeds. Again, uncheck that box. Change your RPM to whatever you want. Or if you're driving off the surface footage, if you say if you want 1,000, that'll change your RPM. But you have full control over it. Change your feed to whatever you like. If you're using your tooling manufacturer data, that's probably the best thing. But you can change it to whatever you want. Move forward. So for this, I'm not going to hit too much on this because this is more in relation to the profile path. But you can do just a standard rough, which is going to do one pass around it. It's kind of ramping down, and again, you can refer to this image over here. It's pretty helpful. Side rough. That's just you tell it how much stock is remaining. Again, it gives you a little picture right there, and then the number of passes. So that's exactly what it looks like. That's the number of step overs it's going to take, and you can, if you're going off a percentage of the tool diameter, you can just figure out how much is left and how many step overs you need to achieve that percentage. Compensation. I'll come back to this in a second and show you when I post this out, so it'll make sense. Side allowance. So that's what that is. It's leaving 15 thou. So let's say if I'm not going to do a finish pass for some reason, I can take it to 0. And the bottom allowance is 0 as well. So it'll be cutting the part to size on this one path. Depth, single, so it's just full depth of cut, one pass, multiple. You tell it however many, so that'll show you that it's going to do it in 4 cuts. That's what it's going to take to achieve the 1 inch. That's even depth, so you can do defined. So you can put in any number you want in here. Actually, let me step back to show you. If you have it on even depth and you put something like that, it's going to round it to make it an even depth. So that's what that means. Let's leave it at 0.25. Plunge, ramp. In this case, I would plunge, but ramp would be just like that. You set an angle and it's going to ramp its way in. So for plunge, you have adjustment over here. Parallel. Well, that's vertical, sorry. Parallel will be coming in from the side. Right angle's similar, just the other direction. Circular is going to make that arc in there. And blend is going to do that motion. So again, that's really up to what you're doing. Parallel, but you do have adjustments. So this distance here will be changed right here. So say if you need it to be longer. And you can uncheck this box if you want the lead out to be differently. But if you want it to be the same as lead in, just leave it checked. Circular, same thing. You have control over all of that. Overlap amount for that will be the amount that the arc out comes past. So basically, you make sure you clean up that wall so it doesn't arc in and arc out at the exact same point. It has that overlap. That's what that is. Corner radius or corner types. I usually leave them sharp, and again, you can look at this image down here and see round, loop. I don't know why you'd ever need to do that, but you get your different options. Again, I usually leave it sharp. Sequence. A lot of times I do closest. This is just kind of picking the order. If you have a certain order you want it to do, and in this case, it's not. It's just doing one path, but kind of in this example, in this image, if you have these 9 pockets, you can drive it to go in a certain order that you prefer or closest. A lot of times I just leave it alone, and this is kind of another part of that. Zigzag, you can see up here, zig's kind of feeding the same direction. So this is all just the order that it's going to perform those features. Okay, hit compute. Let me hide this model. So it's doing that circular path. Let's say we want to be cutting on the outside of this, because obviously I'm inside the model now. So to do that, you can, let's go in here. Now I'm going to show you what I skipped over. So basically we're going to tell it to cut on the other side of the cutter, and you can see it went out. I don't like that. That lead in and out, so let me change that so you can see this better. And you can also, so say if you had it and you were climb cutting, but you were cutting on the inside. So let's say, I was cutting in the right direction, but I want to cut on the other side of that line. You can change that back to left. So now we're back inside again. Now you can right click here and reverse. Right click again, compute, and now you're outside. So if you're trying to choose whether to climb or conventional cut, you can change that within the inside here. Right click edit patterns. But again, if you're already cutting in the right direction, you just want to change on which side of the part you're cutting, you can right click on the default chain start point and modify. You can modify the whole point altogether if you would like. And what you're looking for is that arrow. As you can see, I clicked over there and it changed it. Okay. So now it changed my lead in and out to that corner. You can right click on these and rename them. And the profile. You can right click here, blank that toolpath if you don't want to see those lines in your way. So you can see it based on the model there. So you can see the 4 step downs I told it to do. Let's blank that. Let's run through here. I'm going to show you a quick. This one's set up to drill and tap. I've already selected the geometry, which you can see right here. So on this screen, some of this is about the same. You get your feed and your rapid plane. So let's say 100 thou. Diameter was 200 thou because I selected that hole, which I'm doing this as a drill tap. So it defaults to that 1/4 based on the hole. But on this, you can change it to whatever thread type and thread size you have. So for this, I'm going to leave it alone. It's a blind hole. I don't think I put that one through. Again, you have some control over here for your order. If you have a bunch of holes, you can control and the path it takes to do those holes. Pick top, pick bottom. So let's say that was the top surface of the part. Pick bottom. Now again, if you know your depths, you can just input these values. But if you're working off of a model, it makes life easy as well. Again, same thing as what you saw before. You can put whatever you need to get to where you're going. So I'm just going to do a drill tap for this example. This is the same. Select your work offset. Get your output rotary angle if needed. Tool, it's all the same. Regardless if it's drills or taps or end mills, whatever you're doing. You're going to see the same setup overall here. Go to your tool crib, get in the library if you need. Change all your the details of your tool number, offsets, feeds, speeds. Now this, it's for a drill cycle, it's a little less. For here, you can, if you update your overall, or if you update either one of them, it's going to change the other number, and that's going to be based on the tip of the drill and whatever you told it here. I'm not going to go too much in depth on these specific cycles, but that's how that is. So if you said your overall depth is that 1 inch, then that's what's going to be your effective. Single depth is going to drill straight in and come back out. Peck, as you can see here. Fast peck. It's basically not going to come out of the hole completely every time. It's just going to break that chip and go back into drilling. You can override that peck amount. You can do different for first peck as well, but say you wanted to keep them the same. 200th out per peck. Tap, again, same thing. And again, same thing over here. So overall depth, let's say 0.9 because we were drilling at 930 something was our effective. Compute. They're both blanked out though, so I can unblank these to show them. And that's right click and you just hit blank. Oh, sorry. So now you can see both of the paths there. And now 3D, you have 3D operations. I'm not going to go into that. And this part doesn't have any 3D work on it, but there's a little more to it. Overall, as far as setting up the toolpath, it's the same. It's just when you get to each specific toolpath, you got to kind of know what you're doing for that. And I will cover those probably in groups, do some of the 2D ones and then 3Ds. But again, this covers the general setting up of the toolpath. You right click on that machine setup and select what you want. So you got mill drill, mill tap, which is what I use for that hole, and then one of the 2-axis ones for the profile there. And in a previous video I did go over what you need to do on the initial steps when you open up Bobcad as far as setting stock and setting up your work coordinate within this machine setup. So basically that's your first few steps before you would want to be making these toolpaths. And again, have everything drawn up before. So I'm kind of hitting on different points so you can learn from the very first steps of opening Bobcat and getting to where you're trying to go. So if you need to watch that video, you can check back, and like I said, I covered basically everything you didn't see in this video that got me here and got me in a situation to be making the toolpath. So go back and check that if you need. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always open to feedback, and if there's certain things that you want me to cover, that'd be great. So just reach out to me if you need anything. Thank you.